The swamp waited, dark and still. December 29th, 1972. Eastern Airlines Flight 401, a Lockheed L-1011 TriStar, was on approach. It was a routine flight from New York to Miami. Families looked forward to holidays. The crew prepared for landing, but the swamp had other plans. A light flickered. A landing gear indicator malfunctioned. The crew, focused on the problem, didn't notice their altitude. They lost precious feet. The plane descended, faster and faster, towards the dark embrace below. The impact was devastating. The TriStar, once a symbol of modern aviation, was now twisted metal and shattered dreams. 103 souls perished in the inky Everglades. The tragedy of Flight 401 had begun, but the story, it seemed, was far from over. The crash was a national tragedy, a stark reminder of the fragility of life. Yet, in the wake of the disaster, something else emerged. Whispers, stories, accounts that defied rational explanation. Flight 401, it seemed, was not content with simply fading into history. Crew members, those who flew routes once serviced by the doomed TriStar, started reporting strange occurrences. They saw them. Visions of the dead, familiar faces. Flight attendants spoke of a man in full uniform, his features etched with concern, warning them of technical issues. Mechanics claimed to have been startled by a figure in an Eastern Airlines captain's uniform, vanishing as quickly as it appeared. The descriptions were chillingly consistent. Captain Bob Loft and flight engineer Don Repo, lost on that fateful night, were back, or so it seemed. As the whispers grew louder, a disturbing detail came to light. Eastern Airlines, in a move that would fuel the growing unease, had salvaged usable parts from the wreckage of Flight 401. These parts, ranging from ovens to cockpit instruments, were then incorporated into other aircraft in the Eastern Fleet. A cost-saving measure, perhaps. But to some it was a grave misstep, a blurring of the lines between the living and the dead. Passengers, unaware of the origins of these recycled components, boarded their flights with the ghosts of Flight 401 unknowingly accompanying them. Were these salvage parts merely metal and wiring, or did they carry within them something more? Something of the terror, the confusion, the despair of that December night? Faced with mounting reports of ghostly encounters, Eastern Airlines reacted predictably. They denied, they dismissed, they attempted to silence. These stories, they claimed, were nothing more than the product of overactive imaginations, grief-stricken colleagues struggling to cope with the tragedy. The airline, facing potential lawsuits and a public relations nightmare, did everything in their power to suppress the growing unease. But the more they tried to bury the truth, the more insistent the whispers became. Were these sightings merely hallucinations? Or was Eastern Airlines complicit in a cover-up, desperate to protect their reputation at the cost of acknowledging the unexplainable? Section 5. The ghostly flight engineer, Don Repo, boards again. Perhaps the most unsettling accounts centered around flight engineer Don Repo. Numerous crew members, their voices trembling with a mixture of fear and disbelief, described encounters with a man fitting Repo's description. He would appear in the galley, a look of urgent concern on his face, warning of potential engine fires or electrical malfunctions, and just as suddenly he would vanish. One chilling account involved a senior flight attendant. She was preparing the galley for a routine service when she felt a presence behind her. Turning, she came face to face with Don Repo, his features etched with the same concern he must have felt on that fateful night. He spoke of an impending engine fire, his voice a low murmur. The flight attendant, shaken but resolute, alerted the pilots. A thorough inspection revealed a critical issue with the aircraft's electrical system, an issue that, if left unchecked, could have had catastrophic consequences. Had Don Repo, in some spectral form, returned to prevent another tragedy? Section 6. Seeing Double Captain Loft's lingering presence. Captain Bob Loft, the respected veteran at the helm of Flight 401, was not silent either. His appearances, though less frequent than Repo's, were equally chilling. Pilots reported seeing a man in a captain's uniform, his features obscured by shadow, occupying the jump seat in the cockpit. He would sit silently, observing the flight crew before fading away. One particular encounter sent chills down the spines of those who heard it. A seasoned captain preparing for takeoff noticed a figure seated in the jump seat. The figure, dressed in an Eastern Airlines captain's uniform, turned, and the captain was met with the unmistakable visage of Bob Loft. Loft stared at him, a look of somber understanding in his eyes before disappearing into thin air. The shaken captain, unable to shake off the encounter, refused to fly that day. Section 7, Between Reality and Terror, explaining the unexplained. The hauntings on Eastern Airlines, fueled by whispers and first-hand accounts, sparked a firestorm of speculation. Some sought rational explanations. Grief, they argued, was a powerful force capable of manifesting itself in strange and unsettling ways. The sightings, they claimed, were merely the projections of guilt-ridden colleagues, their minds playing tricks on them. Others, however, embraced the supernatural. The spirits of Flight 401, unable to find peace, were reaching out, they believed. They were bound to the salvaged parts, their essence woven into the very fabric of the aircraft. Were these hauntings a desperate attempt to communicate? A warning? Or simply the echoes of a tragedy that refused to be forgotten? Section 8. The legend endures. Flight 401 in popular culture. The story of Flight 401, with its blend of tragedy and the paranormal, quickly seeped into popular culture. A 1976 book, The Ghost of Flight 401, chronicled the chilling encounters, solidifying the legend in the public consciousness. A made-for-TV movie followed, further cementing the story as a chilling example of aviation mystery. To this day, Flight 401 remains one of the most enduring examples of aircraft hauntings. It has been featured on countless paranormal investigation shows, each attempting to unravel the truth behind the ghostly encounters. The story continues to captivate and terrify, reminding us that some tragedies leave behind more than just wreckage. They leave behind questions, and sometimes whispers from beyond the veil. Section 9. A haunting reminder, safety, loss, and the unseen. The haunting of Flight 401, whether rooted in psychological trauma or genuine supernatural phenomena, serves as a chilling reminder of the power of loss and the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding. It reminds us that the skies, for all their vastness, are not immune to the unexplainable. The next time you board a flight, as you settle into your seat and prepare for takeoff, spare a thought for the souls lost on that December night. Remember the haunting of Flight 401, a chilling tale of tragedy, loss, and the enduring presence of the unseen.